welcome in. We're live on Wednesday, April the 19th, 2023. And this is Keep On Talking. And now here's your host, Tom Kirk.
Hey, thank you very much, Tom Kelly. It's great to be here with each and every one of you at the Counter of Knowledge. Back in the days when you could still go to a truck stop restaurant and find a truck stop restaurant and then have the driver's sections with the driver's tables or the Counter of Knowledge where people would gather around each week or each day and talk about the topics of the day, maybe share some stories, have some fun, tips and tricks for staying safe and sane out there on the road. With that pandemic, we've kind of lost it. So here each week on tncradio.live, we gather around our phones and microphones on a Wednesday evening and kind of recreate that Counter of Knowledge. And we're glad you're here with us tonight. We've got three of our originals who are pretty regular callers with us tonight. Christine Gray, who many of you may know, who's my co-host. She's out this week because she decided it was time to go get some back surgery done yesterday, and she is back at home and recovering well. Christine, if you're out there listening tonight, we miss you. We love you. We wish you a speedy recovery. And if you feel up to calling in, please feel free. But if you just want to sit back and relax and listen, you're always welcome to do that as well. But if you'd like to participate in the conversation tonight, that number is 706-862-8620. That's 706-862-8620. And tonight's topic, we're going to be kind of talking about some of the pressure that drivers are out here on the road. There's various stories that have been kind of in various media about that lately and coming from a variety of different angles. But we're going to be looking more specifically tonight at what drivers out there are seeing in terms of the spot rates or the freight rates in general, whether or not if you're a company driver, are you having maybe to wait longer between loads? Are your loads maybe a little longer or shorter than normal? What are you seeing out there? What are you hearing from the drivers? What are you hearing from customers? And then we'll probably, as the evening goes on, maybe even dip a little bit into what we're seeing in terms of the cost of living for drivers as it's going up. Is what you're making still keeping up with it? Or maybe because as that freight slows down a little bit, is it causing some problems there? So we want to hear from you tonight. 706-862-8620. And we're going to start off with our resident owner-operator here, Jess Graham. It's so great to have you back on. It's been a while, my dear.
I know. I've just been really, really busy. I'm overhauling the Black Widow right now, and so I've just been focused on that. And then the truck show. Then I had surgery 6 weeks ago, so I'm a hot mess.
Well, hey, we're glad that you're here, hot mess or not. It's always glad to hear you. And you know what? You just reminded me of one other announcement I wanted to make real quick tonight, speaking of surgeries. For those of you who've listened to the show, particularly some of the podcast episodes of Keep On Talking Live, you'll recall probably about a year and a half ago now, a good year ago anyways, we did an interview with Sludge from Outback Truckers, driver of the Phantom Big Rig. He was earlier this year, about a month before the Mid-America Trucking Show, in a very bad motorcycle accident. He's doing better now. He is recovering, but he's got a lot of physical therapy and other things there. And if you look at the Sludge Facebook page, his girlfriend and some other friends are doing updates on him there. But Paul Andrews, a.k.a. the Sludge, I got to talk to some of his friends at the Mid-America Truck Show from Australia, Yogi and some of the other Outback truckers. And it was nice hearing more stories about you and getting to know you in a little different way. But hey, Sludge, if you're listening tonight, we got you in our prayers, brother, and we hope you do better. But let's get back to you, Miss Jess. What are, as an owner operator out there, how are you handling the market? Are you doing anything differently? What is it that you're seeing?
It's gross. We're back to where we were maybe 6 weeks after the beginning of COVID, where rates are just plummeting, and a lot of it, I think, has to do with we're over capacity. And people, anytime there's an economic downturn, people flood into trucking because it's been a semi-stable profession. But there needs to be some slowdown in the entrance. We need to pump the brakes. Because right now there's so many trucks just sitting around doing nothing. It's cheaper for me to actually just bring my truck home and fiddle around on it than it is for me to try and pull freight for free, because I won't get out there with these rates under $2, and some of them are even under $1. I'm seeing it's really gross.
Well, I guess that's a question is, in your situation, you do have the capability to sit for a while. Does there get to be a point where you're through your savings, or you're like, I'm going to have to do something? What is that kind of a point if you're an owner operator where you maybe have to start making some of the tough decisions?
I learned long ago that trucking is feast and famine. So, like, when it's good, don't go out there building a house in Central America next to your mother. Wait, I'm sorry. First, that was way too close to me. No. You bank it when it's good. I like to tell people that are thinking about doing this or going from a company driver, don't be afraid of an older truck. Because I can drive my truck home and park it, and I don't have to think every week about that $1,000+ payment that I have to make because I have zero payment. So I can sit and wait a lot longer than most people can. And when it was good, we were just chucking money away.
And I think that is a good thing to do that there. And that is something, well, I heard some people encouraging people to squirrel away money for a rainy day. At the same token, it also seemed like a lot of people, for whatever reason, weren't, whether they were taking vacations or upgrading equipment or getting caught up in that equipment expansion market. It just seemed like there was a lot of different things going out there. Bruce, I know you've been out here for a number of years, particularly as a company driver. How are you seeing things right now? Do you is freight kind of slowing down for you guys? Is it about the same? What is it that you're seeing from your perspective as a company driver?
Freight being really slow. I run east of the Rockies. When I leave home out of Florida, usually send me up into Georgia, North Carolina, somewhere that way, and try moving me west. Here lately, I've been staying around Virginia, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee. Short runs, maybe 400 miles, 300 miles. Yeah, and it's getting slower. Your mama don't dance and your daddy don't rock and roll and whatnot.
Would
some weeks I see it pick up, and then some weeks I don't.
And I think that's one of the things that I'm seeing from my perspective working in the office. Our company tends to be maybe more stable for a lot of the types of freight that we haul. But, every now and then we have a week that, just seems a lot slower than normal for whatever set of reasons. It's like all the customers got on the phone and say, you know what, let's not ship freight this week. But the weeks before and in the weeks after, it's moving at a normal or maybe slightly above normal volume. But yeah, it seems to be a very different pattern. Before we go to a break here, just a couple of minutes, I want to take a quick poll here with Granny and Bruce and Jess. We'll start off with you, Jess. Are you seeing things now that remind you of the 2002, 2007, 2008, maybe early 2009 recession that we saw back there in trucking?
Yeah, I think that it is. But I think that we have to stop the recruiting from outside into the industry. Work with what we have already in the industry. And I think you'll see. Go ahead.
Well, let's go more into that after the break here, because I think that's an interesting topic that is, side conversation that has to deal with what we're talking about tonight. Bruce, are you seeing signs that kind of remind you of 2008 recession back here in the trucking industry?
Somewhat.
And Granny, what are you seeing? Are you seeing some signs that remind you a little bit of that 2008 recession?
I think to a point, but I don't think it's quite as bad as some people think it is. I think changes just need to be made within the industry.
Well, we're going to find out what some of those changes are and maybe what recruiting has to do with some of the problems that we're seeing. Plus, hear more from Granny about where she thinks industry is or where things are right now. And how she thinks things are going. There's still plenty of room for you. 706-862-8620. We'll be back right after these messages. Keep those ears on.
TNCradio.live, your commercial driver navigation station.
We're all about the news, information, entertainment, talk radio, music, comedy, and topics truckers want to hear.
I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly. We're talking with retired NASA engineer Homer Hickam, who's the author of Rocket Boys, which inspired the movie October Sky.
We're talking with Alex Debogorski. He's one of the original stars of Ice Road Truckers.
Chip Davis of Mannheim Steamroller, music icon and Grammy Award-winning country artist Lee Greenwood. We're speaking with racing legend Mario Andretti. Michael Martin Murphey is a legend on the music scene with wonderful ballads and hits like Wildfire and Cowboy Logic. Curtis Grimes.
Michael McDowell, the 2021 Daytona 500 winner.
Our guest this afternoon is Tom Bodette. You know the name, you know the voice.
The Carolina Monkey Gouger, Jimmy Artis. Today we have the honor of speaking again with Long Haul Paul. Today we have Claire Dunn and Logan Mize with us.
Stay tuned and stay safe with TNCradio.live.
This blog is brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net. The dark side of the long-haul trucker lifestyle. A trucker's lifestyle can be a gloomy place at times. The long days, stressful work environments, and loneliness have major effects on a driver's life. The dark side of the long-haul trucker's lifestyle is often overlooked and not addressed. As a result, many drivers suffer from mental and physical health problems. Before entering the trucking industry, long-haul truck drivers need to be aware of the good and bad that comes with this lifestyle. It's difficult to stay healthy. Being in good health is a rare thing for long-haul truck drivers. Life on the road doesn't give drivers many opportunities to live a healthy lifestyle. When you spend the majority of your trucking career on the go, your food options are limited. Although taking an exit to get McDonald's may seem like an easy solution or the easiest option, eating fast food for every meal for weeks at a time can cause serious health issues. Obesity is one of the most common health issues in truckers. If you don't watch your diet and exercise, you could end up developing a serious health problem. Say goodbye to a regular sleep schedule. The trucking industry runs 24/7, 365, so having a regular sleep schedule is rare for long-haul drivers. The loading and unloading times are often never the same. At times, a driver will deliver a load at 2 a.m. one day and 1 p.m. the next day. In addition to the inconsistent load times, drivers can make multiple deliveries a day. This creates a lot of stress on the body and leaves the driver operating on a few hours of sleep. If you're struggling with getting enough sleep and staying awake on the road, check out our blog, 5 Easy Steps to Help Truckers Stay Awake While Driving. You'll feel lonely. It's not uncommon for long-haul truck drivers to feel lonely while on the road. Drivers have very little face-to-face interactions while working on the road. While this may seem like a good thing for some drivers, it can start to develop depressive symptoms. Depression is a common side effect of trucking. To help avoid feeling depressed on the road, talk to your friends and family on the phone at least once a day. As a long-haul truck driver, you can often feel like you're missing out on your loved one's life. Communicating with them daily will help you feel less lonely. It's hard on your relationships. Long-haul trucking can strain your relationship with your significant other. Being away from your loved one for weeks at a time is never easy. In addition to being apart, many drivers struggle with balancing their work life and personal life. Relationships already take a lot of work, but long-distance relationships take even more work. When you become a long-haul truck driver, it's important to be willing to put an extra effort into your relationship. Some quick tips to having a healthy relationship as a long-haul truck driver. Communicate daily. Spend as much time together as possible when you're not working. Consider therapy. Avoid arguments. Trust each other. This blog has been brought to you by the Truckers Network at app.thetruckersnetwork.net.
Hi, I'm Charlie Klaber, and I'm excited to join the TNC Radio.live family. You can hear my show, Highway Fever, on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right after Mind Your Trucking Business. One quick question. What have you done today to make trucking better for tomorrow? Join me, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right after Mind Your Trucking Business on Highway Fever.
Running hammer down since the sun came up.
And we're back with Keep On Talking Live. I'm Tom Kirk, and we've got a special guest in Christine Gray, who has joined us from her recovery bed. How are you doing tonight, Christine?
I'm feeling pretty good. That's all medication related, but I am feeling pretty good. As long as I don't move anywhere, we're good.
Well, we're glad you've joined us at least for a few minutes as we're talking tonight. What drivers are seeing out there? There's been some articles saying how things are getting tough for the truck drivers in the trucking industry. And there's a bunch of different ways that can be looked at. And what we're looking at tonight is more specifically what drivers are seeing out there in terms of freight volume, freight rates, and some of the ideas that they think could be contributing to it. And we're going to be coming here back in a little bit to Jess and some of her ideas about some of the recruiting issues involving entry level and new drivers and maybe contributing to some of this. I know Granny has some thoughts as well on a few things. And Dutch, who just called in and will be joining us as well with his thoughts. But if you would like to participate, we still got plenty of room for you. 706-862-8620. Granny, what are you kind of seeing out there? Because I know you had to take off for a while for some family and other reasons and have just got back out on the road. Are things better or worse than you were kind of expecting in terms of freight? What is it that you're seeing out there?
I think, honestly, I'm pretty sheltered in that area. I work for a company where about 95% of our freight, sorry, background noise, I'm going past it. About 95% of our freight is all contract, so I don't ever wait. I don't have a problem getting freight and getting loads. They're like lined up waiting for me. So to be honest with you, it's hard for me to give a fair eval of that part of what's going on in the industry because I am so sheltered from that.
Well, and I think that's
very lucky.
And that is very fortunate. And that's one of the things that I do think that is interesting is, Bruce was kind of mentioning, he's with a company that does have a fair amount of contracts and they're seeing a little bit of slowdown on what they're doing. Dutch, I know you're on the lease side of owner operating, and the company that you're leased onto, if I remember right, you're on a dedicated fleet. What is it you're seeing? Are things about what you would expect? Have they slowed down maybe from what you would anticipate? What are you kind of noticing out there?
It has kind of slowed down a little bit, but it's not bad because we can actually, because I'm with Georgia Pacific, they can actually broker out loads if they need be, and it goes, of course, through Georgia Pacific. But I mean, like when I first started with DART, I was doing the OPI, which is I was booking my own loads, and that's the reason I went to this dedicated because I noticed that the broker rate was going down and the freight rate was going down. So I said, hey, I need to keep rolling because I need to make money. I mean, it's making less than I was before, but it keeps me rolling, so I do kind of even out.
And I think that's an interesting calculation that you sometimes have to make. Whether you're a small business owner, an owner-operator, a full owner-operator like Jess, or a lease driver like yourself, do you run the board and maybe take some risks there? Do you maybe just get this thing that's a little consistent with a little lower rates so you can make your bills plus still have a decent amount of money on the side? And I think that calculation's a little bit different for everybody. Dutch, I can't remember. How long have you been driving again?
About 19 years.
Okay, so you do remember that the 2008 recession there. From what you're seeing now, in your opinion, do you think we're seeing signs of maybe the potential for another 2008, or what is it that you're seeing there?
That's hard to say because, I mean, I'd say it could be starting like it was 2008. I don't know, because a lot of people I talked to, they said it's going to get worse. I'm like, well, I haven't noticed. I mean, my company's pretty good. I mean, I'm like, granted, I'm kind of sheltered a little bit, but I've noticed, I've read places that it's slowing down and that the spot freight is slowing down a lot. But I really haven't, I can't for say that it is or it isn't. It kind of does feel like it, but it kind of doesn't. That makes sense.
It really does. And actually, earlier today, Gary Bucks, or Bukes, however you want to say it, who has been an owner-operator for a number of years, who does a lot of coaching for other people right now, TA Citizen Driver. He couldn't make it tonight because he had an appointment, but he said a couple of thoughts. In his opinion, too many small owner-operators are dependent on the spot rates right now, because he's noticing a huge fluctuation, and it seems to be getting larger and larger for a number of reasons, some of which has to do with that he's noticing some of the larger carriers, in order to keep their drivers are moving, are using the spot market as different things slow up a little bit. So that's something that he's noticing, and he's suggesting or encouraging owner-operators whenever possible to start getting some contract work. And sometimes that's more feasible and easier than others, because one of the things that I noticed at Mid-America, I had some guys who were owner-operators coming up to me talking about coming and working on the company side because they were having trouble breaking into the contract market. And, they're some of them may be getting to a point where, is it worth all the work of being an owner-operator, or is it maybe time to still stay in driving, but go to the company side where you have the benefits and don't have to manage the truck and a whole bunch of other things. So that was one of the things I did find interesting at Mid-America when I was there with IBI, talking to some of the owner-operators and some of the calculations that they were starting to look into going forwards. Granny, I know you said you had some thoughts as to what was going on, or what some of the causes as to some of this freight fluctuation and other things were. What is it that you're kind of seeing or thinking could be some of the factors with this? And we just lost Granny. So we're actually going to move back to Jess. Before the break, you had talked about your thoughts that we're seeing too many drivers being brought in to the market.
Well, I actually
thoughts on that as well. So
I actually wanted to pony up. You said that some of the bigger carriers, they're on the spot market, and there is that shift. They're looking at the spot market for their own trucks while they're taking their trailers and running their contract freight as power only to owner operators. I'm seeing a big push for owner operators to come drive for, at Matt's, our booth was right behind Werner had theirs. And when I was looking at their rates that they were posting, and they're like, anything catch your eye? And I'm like, you don't have anything on this sample load board, anything over $2 a mile. It was like $1.41. And there's people that are running out to get that just, because they can't get a trailer. They can't, it's an easy way for them to keep their truck and keep making their truck payments. But yeah, what I wanted to say on the recruiting side is the rates are going down, not because freight is paying less. It's because there's a surplus of trucks. And so brokers are able to cut and razor it down to the penny, and go with the cheapest truck because there's options. And so if you're over capacity now, why are we still recruiting and bringing people into this industry? That would probably slow down the hemorrhaging that the fleets that are already established will feel. As if we just stop bringing people in for like temporary pause, or, put a hiring freeze on some of these companies that are churning through students.
I think there's a whole bunch to unpack there. I'm not even sure if we have enough time to try to get into all of it tonight, but to hit a few of the things that I've noticed is one of the things that I noticed over at IBI, I'm getting a fair number of calls from people who have just got out of trucking school, or they're in that 3 to 6 months, 3 to 9 months phase and looking for a better job or a new job or their first job. And the problem with IBI and a lot of other smaller companies out there, because of insurance, if you don't have a minimum of some companies 2 or 3 years of experience, our insurance is not going to let you to hire. And I've had some people who could have been pretty good prospects because of some of their other background, looked quite good to us. But because they didn't have that experience, I was not able to offer them a job and had to point them towards some of the larger fleets with training programs. But one of the things I'm hearing from some of them is because they didn't go to an official school sponsored by Fleet X or that works with Fleet X. Fleet X has minimal interest in them right now because they've got so many coming in through their own pipeline. So I think that is a legitimate problem throughout the industry.
If you've got a company like Prime for the last year has had no less than 250 students every week waiting for trainers. And it's a 6 week to 3 month wait in a hotel away, barely making money, getting your $40 a day pay rate just to wait for a trainer at one fleet. That tells me that they need to pump the brakes on and limit the amount of students to bring in. Let's get through the ones we already have in the system.
And I think that is a realistic point there, because one of the things that's always interesting is people are saying, well, churn isn't an accurate depiction when you listen to some of the industry execs for a variety of reasons. But we're going to get more into some of that here after the break. Stay tuned. We still have room for you. 706-862-8620. We'll be right back after this. Keep your ears on.
Hi, I'm Hope Savara. Join us every Monday on TNC Radio Live at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's Building Strong Minds.
Hi, I'm Dr. Christopher Cortman, and now for the Mental Health Minute. Can people really change? Should you even bother getting into therapy? It's expensive and time-consuming. And for what? Can you really change? Years ago, I had a graduate school professor who said, people don't change unless it's too painful not to. Is that true? Well, in my experience, not all the time, but it's pretty good. Because change is often motivated by pain, by some kind of discomfort, by something that hurts deeply, something that frustrates us, and therefore motivates us to take on a challenge to change something. So what can we change? Not other people. Oftentimes not circumstances, not the weather. What we can change is our perception of things. We can change our behavior and our responses to people and situations. And we can also learn how to let go of painful things from our past. Those are things that therapy can really help you change.
TNCRadio.live, your commercial driver navigation station.
And we're back with Keep On Talking Live. I'm Tom Kirk, and Christine Gray is with us recovering. We appreciate you being here, Christine, even if you're taking it easy and just listening to the conversation. Do you have anything you'd like to add so far? And I think she's busy. Oh, there you are. Do you have anything from what you've been listening to tonight from the conversation? Do you have anything you'd like to add?
You know what? I have to agree. The question that you posed to Bruce had to do with, is this what, or, are we looking at something that we saw back in 08, 09, 07, I carry raw materials. I'm usually the one that sees either coming down or climbing first, right? I do see it slow down. I do see it. I think that we have problems all the way across the board, where you have too many trucks sitting, too many, all the above, letting the market where, they kept pushing harder and harder. We need this out there. We need that out there. And then we have a market tank. Now they've been talking about, all those high price mortgages, what happens when they decide they're going to call their markers, which is exactly what happened in 08, 09. And you're seeing the beginnings of that all over again. That's, the trickle effect. Look what's happening inside the grocery stores and things you wouldn't think. We all got raises, January? Those of us who are company drivers, we saw really big raises to keep us where we were at. And then you see all these layoffs. You see, the things that are happening in hospitals with nurses and doctors and stuff. If you pay attention to everything across the board, yes, it's exactly what you see coming. Everything. Walmart shelves still, partially, missing. They're missing stuff. You can't get this and you can't get that. It just depends. And then you see, your global stuff going on. And yeah, I think all the way across the board, you will see an 08 and 09 all over again. I just don't know how bad. I'm not an analyst. I'm not a financial analyst, but yes, do I see it again? Yeah, I do.
And trucking in a lot of ways is a bellwether for what we're going to see in the economy. And I think a lot of drivers are concerned for good reason. And you do hear, there's been a number of trucking companies over the last year or two of all sizes that have went under for a variety of reasons. Jess, I'm going to come to you for a minute on this before we go back a little bit more into some of the recruiting stuff. What is your predictions? What are your thoughts? We've saw a lot of people out there pay way too much for trucks for a variety of reasons, particularly people who are trying to expand. And I know your company has done some expansion. Do you guys think you were paying too much for trucks? How many people do you think maybe did pay for too much for trucks? What are some of your thoughts out there in regards to what you think could be coming, particularly as we're starting to see truck prices for a variety of reasons coming down?
Absolutely. I'm actually on the bad guy side of this because my partner is really good about digging trucks out of fields, and my mechanics are really good at getting them back running and road ready. And we bought a bunch of trucks over the last 3 years, I think 9, and we are sitting on maybe 4 of them. So we actually flipped trucks and sold them. We weren't selling them overpriced, but if you're about to lose your truck to the bank, you could also sell it to me for pennies on the dollars. I'll take it. So we actually were able to amass some equipment and flip it. We didn't actually expand to get it out on the road.
Well, and I think there is something to be said that because, if you could be in the right place at the right time and get the right deal on a truck, I know a few other people who got some trucks who were in accidents, got a parts truck, and then lo and behold, were able to get both trucks up and running. So by the time everything was said and done, they had a truck that they kept, sold the other truck, and ended up making a profit on the deal. So there were deals out. If you're
in a position, but if you're not really sure, I also saw more people that were not prepared to be in trucking and what goes through it. Like, oh yeah, I just went out and bought a truck. Now what do I do with it? And they're asking this in trucking groups. And I'm like, put the cart before the horse. Who does that? So those people that have, outrageous truck payments, I know people that have $1,500 just their base payment on their truck, and it's not even a new truck. I know somebody that has a $2,500 a week payment on a truck, and it was a brand new truck. And I'm like, you are going to lose that because every time you make that payment, I'm looking at, I don't have to earn that much in that week. So I can sit back and skip a load or sit for a day waiting for a better load because I don't have to make that $1,000 to $2,500 a week that you have to. And if you have a trailer payment as well, you're looking at $3,500 there. Now that's money I don't have to earn.
Wait, I want to go back a second here. You said a $2,500 a week truck payment?
I know somebody with a brand spanking new 2023 truck.
Wow.
And their payment comes in at like 24 and some change a week.
I mean, if you're in the right market, maybe you can keep that up, but wow.
Absolutely not. They are hauling spot market freight.
Okay, well, there goes that.
Every week about broker intervention, and we need more regulation, which we don't. Just know what you're doing.
Well, and that's one of the other things that I'm kind of noticing is a lot of brokers right now seem to think they have the upper hand where, 6 months ago, a year ago, they were begging for trucks. Now they're like, well, you have to download our app. You have to do this. You have to do check calls every 4 hours, literally in some ways micromanaging you, if not trying to run your truck for you. And, if you give any resistance, this is, well, if you don't want it, we can just not use your services. And the weird part is
market freight.
Go ahead.
Was never designed to run your business off of. It was meant to get you a backhaul or to fill in if you needed a load every now and again. It was not meant for you to run your whole business off of.
And
so, I don't have these broker issues because I found a broker on the spot market and I developed a relationship with her, and she's been my broker for like 7 years now. I've only hauled her freight pretty much. So for the last 4.5 years, all I've hauled is her freight. So I don't really have an issue because she lines me up and I'm, nobody, but if you're running your whole business off of the load boards, then, you can't complain that you're not getting the rates you want.
The problem is the circumstance. I'm not even talking about rates for the moment. I'm just talking about the fact that certain brokerage companies now are getting to the point where they're like, if you don't do things exactly the way we say, we're going to cut you off. And the weird thing is they're starting to get some companies to look at them and says, okay, not a problem. There's other brokers that want to work with us. We'll go to them. And they don't know what to say. They're shocked because they're so used to hearing people begging and giving into them for whatever reason, that when somebody does stand up, they're shocked. They don't know what to make of that. But something that I do want to kind of go back and touch on here just for a minute or two before we have to go to the break, and then I want to hear from Bruce and Dutch after this. Let's go back for a second to some of these newer drivers that are in here, and whether it's a pause, whether we slow things down, whatever it is. Is there anything else that you think, Jess, that goes along with that we should be looking into that could maybe make some changes in here going forwards?
I definitely think just literally a temporary pause on recruiting and would solve a lot of the issues that we're having across the board, not just with the freight and the movement. Maybe limit the number of MCs that can open up. I mean, there has to be some parameters set. Instead of asking for broker transparency, just don't haul for the broker you don't like their rate. But if you limit, in a certain period, however many new companies can open up, that'll also kind of slow down the bleed, and keep the capacity where it needs to be.
I think that's an interesting idea. The one thing that always scares me when you start getting the government involved with any kind of volume like this, they always seem to be too slow, too quick, too whatever. and they always seem to manage to get those numbers wrong. But we got a number that we can't ignore. We've got a break that's coming up. So we're going to take that and be right back to wrap up the show. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages. Keep those ears on.
Join Tom Kelly and the rest of the team each day on the morning grind. Then stay tuned for an encore presentation of last night's Landline Now. Weekdays on TNCRadio.live.
6 safety tips for truck driving in hot weather. Driving in the heat can create dangerous situations for truck drivers. Drivers need to take specific precautions before hitting the road in extreme heat. When there's an incoming heat wave, drivers need to be aware of how to safely drive in these weather conditions. Follow the Truckers Network's 6 safety tips for truck driving in hot weather. Every truck driver needs to complete a pre-trip inspection before driving, especially in hot weather. Check your tires. Heat can have a huge effect on your tires. As the temperature increases, so does the air pressure in your tires. During the hottest months of the year, it's important to frequently check your tire pressure. Frequently checking your tires can save you from a blowout. To get an accurate measurement, wait for your tires to cool down before checking the pressure. The heat and friction from the road causes your tires to warm up, which will cause a rise in tire pressure. Also, don't be afraid to take a break every couple of hours to let your tires cool down. Protect your engine. Not only should you protect yourself from the heat, but you should also protect your engine. One way to keep your engine from overheating is to frequently check the engine oil. The oil keeps the engine cool and keeps the parts running smoothly. Engine coolant is just as important as engine oil. Coolant helps prevent the engine from overheating in extremely hot temperatures. Keep an eye on the coolant temperature gauge while driving. If the gauge goes above the safe temperature, pull over and see what's going on. Failing to look at the situation could lead to engine failure. Also, make sure to check for leaks in the hoses. A cracked hose can lead to engine failure. Check your brakes. Cold and hot weather affect your semi-truck's brakes. When you brake, you create a significant amount of friction and your brakes become extremely hot. When you add in hot weather, your brakes have an even higher chance of failing. To avoid your brakes from failing, brake gradually to decrease the amount of heat. Also, regularly check your brake pads to ensure they're working properly. Tips to protect yourself from the hot weather. It's just as important to protect yourself during extremely hot weather. Follow these tips to keep yourself cool and safe. Stock up on water. As the temperature increases, you need to increase your water intake. Make sure to always have water in your truck. You never know when you might get stuck in traffic or break down on the side of the road. Wear sunscreen. Many truck drivers forget this step. Even when you're in your truck, you're still exposed to the harmful UVA rays. Make sure to put sunscreen on before hitting the road. Wear light-colored clothes. Light-colored clothing reflects light, and dark-colored clothing absorbs it. Wearing light-colored, loose-fitting clothes helps you stay cooler and more comfortable.
Hello, I'm Ron Samuels. I put it in reverse gear here Monday through Thursday nights at 10, 9 Central on TNCRadio.live. Do you believe in the power of prayer? Whether you're moving down the highway or taking a break, now's a good time to take a moment to tell God your hopes, concerns, and gratitude. You want someone to pray with? No problem. Just call the TFC Global 24-Hour Prayer Line. It's 866-515-9406. By the way, if you're using the TNCRadio.live app, just press the prayer line button to be connected to a prayer warrior who will confidentially pray with and for you. The number again, 866-515-9406, or tap the prayer line button at the TNCRadio.live app.
And we're back with Keep On Talking Live. We're getting ready to wrap up here around the counter of knowledge tonight. We've had a great show here with quite a few callers and a lot of spirited conversation about Is things getting tougher for the trucking industry? And some of our thoughts and causes as to why it was. And it's been a really wide-ranging topic of conversation. But first, I want to make sure we talk about what's coming up next tonight. And right after this show, we've got Taillights with Larry and Angie Baum. They've got a great guest, as always, that will be joining them to talk about stories and other tales from the road, hence Taillights. And then after that, at 8 Central, 9 Eastern, is going to be Clutch Time Sports with Anderson and Banker, the only sports show geared to truck drivers and transportation. So still lots of great talk to come tonight. But in the last little bit of time we have left, I want to wrap up. Granny and Jess and I have had a lot of chance to talk about some of the topics tonight, but I want to give both Dutch and Bruce a chance to give some of their thoughts as to what's kind of going on and some of the things that are going off. Bruce, let's start off with you. Based on some of the stuff we're talking tonight, do you agree with some of the stuff that's going on? Do you see some of the same problems, or maybe is it something entirely different?
I see it, some of the same problems because of what's going on politically. But I also think that, you got Walmart.com, Amazon, Chewy. Chewy opened up factories all over, or warehouses all over the place. That's all they do is mail order. So you don't go to the pet store no more. It's called Chewy. People aren't getting out and going to the stores. So why do the stores have to stock stuff? And
and I think that's an interesting question. I find there's certain types of stores that I go to a little bit more now, whether it's a secondhand store, local retailers, bargain stores. But even in some of the bargain stores, there's a big chain up here in the Northeast and in parts of the country called Ollie's. If I look back a year, 2 years ago, particularly before the pandemic, you could go in there, they'd be packed with all kinds of deals and closeouts from other stores. And I'm walking in now, and more often than not, there's entire sections of the store. It's not empty because of how they have things stocked, but the variety, the stuff that's coming in and the quantity on a regular basis, it doesn't seem there. So there definitely is some different things going. And I do think online sales play a part in that. I mean, the good news is, at least for truck drivers, particularly us that are over the road, the stuff still has to get to the warehouse. So at least on some level, we're still seeing freight from that. Now, some of the other, breakdown store-to-store deliveries, that's obviously being impacted. But you do have, different types of trucking that's involved in there, which I guess is a good thing. But still, at the end of the day, it does cause problems because these retail employees who have depended on that are there. But you also hear a lot of retailers saying they're having trouble finding employees to stay open. So it's kind of this interesting conundrum that we can get into maybe a little bit more on another night. Hey, Dutch, we've got just a few minutes left. What are some of your thoughts as to what we've been talking about tonight? Where do you think things are falling right now?
I don't know if it's off subject, but people are talking about there's a flux of people being trained. Well, also, I've noticed a lot of people like, Swift and other companies, they're bringing people abroad. And I keep talking to them, and they're like, oh, well, I'm like, why are you coming to the United States? Oh, because we are tax exempt for 5 years. They need to stop that. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, tax exempt for 5 years, so that means they can afford this, they can afford that. Then it just brings more people in. I mean, people are saying that there's a driver shortage. No, it's a parking shortage and a freight shortage because we have too many drivers on the road. I mean, I'm at a truck stop right now in Oak Creek, Wisconsin. 4:30, the Loves across the road was full. This one is full right now, and it's not even 7 o'clock. So no, it's just getting bad, and it's going to get worse, and they're going to have to do some sort of hold on the flux of training. I mean, we have enough people out here. Why we need more? And like he just said, yeah, I've ordered from Chewy. We also have Sam's Club. We have Costco, and we have what's the other one? BJ's, which is a big one too, and they're all over the place too. And yeah, they're going to need stock, but it's not going to be enough to keep all of the truckers going. So yeah, we need to figure out why is everyone going to online shopping instead of, first off, it started when COVID, and now they're not going to stop because, for instance, my parents, they don't want to leave the house. It's too cold. They go online, go to Amazon, boom, gets there in 3 days. They at least they don't have to leave the house at all.
And some of it, I'm going to be honest, it is convenience, because one of the things that I sometimes do at work is order some of the office supplies or whatever. And, there are times, don't get me wrong, when I run to the local warehouse club and pick up certain things that we need. But at the same token, we need a couple cases of copy paper. We need this, we need that. Go to Amazon, go to whichever store, click a few buttons. It's on the way. No shipping. And there is a certain convenience for it. And also, as a driver, I started relying on Amazon and other things more because sometimes it was hard to get to the store and find parking. Now, that's a driver looking at it or somebody in an office from a practical standpoint. But I think a lot of other people are looking at that from similar reasons. And I think it's going to cause us to do some rethinking, not just in trucking, but in a lot of different markets as to how we're doing things. But you know what? That's going to be a topic we're going to have to pick up another night because we're getting near the top of the hour. As a reminder, Larry and Angie Baum with Tail Lights will be coming up next. Then we're going to be having Anderson and Banker with Clutch Time Sports there at 8 Central, 9 Eastern. It's been another great evening here of Talk Radio on TNCradio.live with Keep On Talking Live. Hopefully Christine Gray will be feeling a lot better and back to her normal self next week. We hope to see you next week here on the radio as we're going to have more great conversation on a wide variety of topics as it relates to trucking. We might talk up parking. Who knows what we'll talk about next week, but it's going to be another great conversation where we need you. So we'll see you next week here on Keep On Talking Live on TNCradio.live. Stay tuned for Larry and Angie Baum coming up next.